Along the lines of all of the Hilchos Kashrus and whatnot that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, there is an important question that arises every year, and you see people getting confused about this and having lots of opinions about it. And when you look at Pesach books, they have lots and lots of different things to say. And non-edible things, do they need to be kosher? And as you're about to see, this is going to touch on many of the things we've spoken about in Hilchos Kashrus in general, though you don't need to be holding in all of the things that we've spoken about, but you'll see how this all comes up. What we mentioned about Hilchos Pesach as unique to all other things, specifically when we talk about chametz, is that chametz on Pesach has a couple of important differentiations from everything else. Thing number one about chametz for Pesach is that not only is it forbidden to eat, it is also forbidden to own and enjoy. Right? Hana. Right? You're not allowed to own it, you're not allowed to enjoy it. What?
Why does hana mean make money?
Well, it does mean make money from it, but it could also mean other stuff, as we're about to see. Right. I mean, literally get pleasure from, get benefit from. So, for example, feeding your dog chametz is a problem. Why?
You're getting benefit from
Right, you're benefiting from it. How's you getting benefit from it?
Well, the dog's not dying.
Right, by not having a dead dog. Right? If your dog died, that would be not benefiting from it. So you don't want your dog to die. You want, I mean, I don't know. It depends who. I've had questions. I've had questions from guys that have been like, "How do I convince my wife and children that?" Right? No, you're benefiting from the lack of it. Exactly. Right? Like the husbands that found out this was a terrible idea to say yes to my 8-year-old getting a dog for their birthday.
It was killing my baby.
Right. That's death of the firstborn and mistaken canine pet. Okay, so getting hana means eating. Obviously, eating is a form of benefit, but eating is prohibited anyway. Benefiting meaning selling it, giving it as a gift in such a way that somebody would be excited to receive a gift from you. Making money from it, whatever the case may be. So benefit is a separate category. There is another two unique halachas with regards to chametz on Pesach that we should mention. One, and this everybody's familiar with, that chametz on Pesach is asur b'mashehu, right? You are not allowed to have even a morsel of it. There is no bittul to that morsel. If you have one drop of chametz that falls into a massive part of something on Pesach, it's asur b'mashehu. You're not allowed to get any benefit from that whole pot of whatever it is. That is true. This is important. Only on Pesach. If it falls in before Pesach, right? You're prepping for Pesach, and you have one drop of chametz that fell into your big pot of whatever. So chametz before Pesach is batel, but on Pesach it is not batel. Once the isur of chametz kicks in, you're in trouble.
Is the other aspect also like that? Like, I don't know, dog food. They make these crazy things where you could put like a ton of food in.
Right.
This versus on ton.
Yeah. So if there was a drop of chametz in that, you'd be fine because that would be batel before Pesach. Right. Before Pesach, that would be okay. Right, but we're not going to be mevatel lechatchila. But if there happens to be a drop of chametz in your dog food mix,
An emergency that you're going to stop.
right now, it's also worth pointing out that if there is chametz dog food in the thing and it is distinct, that chametz is probably edible. So you should be careful about that. Dog food, but also has a unique distinction of being asur if a dog would eat it. That's important.
That's the level.
Right.
That's
Dog
for
food.
edible.
That's what now defined as food.
Correct. Food is meaning edible is defined as edible to a dog, even if a human wouldn't eat it. If a dog would eat it, that's considered edible.
So shampoo is actually not a problem.
Right. Now,
What's a dog would eat?
shampoo is not right. Shampoo is not a problem from the perspective of eating. But the question is, what about hana? What about benefiting from it? And that's an important question that we need to address. That's an important question, and
some unscented shampoo.
right. So- So-
Yeah, extra dandruff.
I'll give you a fun story that happened because I heard this from Rashachta. It told us the story that happened in Rav Soloveitchik's shir at one point in time. Somebody asked the question about perfume. Can you use cologne on Pesach? Now that's going to be part of our discussion here. You'll see what Rav Soloveitchik's opinion was that about that in a moment. But how we get to that is there's a couple of steps to get to. We'll introduce at least the end halacha l'maisa already at the beginning with this fascinating and amazing story. It's worth noting that perfume is made out of alcohol, right? Meaning there's alcohol in perfume, and that alcohol, at least at some point in time, was probably edible, right? Meaning you could use it as an alcohol to get drunk off of. I've mentioned this before, and no offense to any of the Russians in the room, but apparently in Russia this was like a thing. Like when guys ran out of alcohol, they would just borrow their wives' perfume, and by borrow we mean not planning on giving it back. But
No,
it is,
you're sick.
yeah, for sure makes you sick, unless you're Russian, in which case, right? So, which case,
You're alive.
which case, you're good. You're good. That's right. That's
You always do a few sprays and then off before I was on.
right. Sam isn't even offended. He's like, I feel like you understand me. The story. It's a tremendous story. Somebody in Rav Soloveitchik's shir said to him, Rabbi, what should we do with regards to perfume? Meaning it's not actually edible, drinkable for humans. So Rav Soloveitchik said to him, do you have a dog? He says, yes, I have a dog. He says, and would your dog drink the cologne? So he said, actually, yes, my dog drinks cologne, like he's happy to drink cologne. So Rav Soloveitchik looked at him and said, your dog is crazy. Meaning, we don't paskin based on your insane dog. Normal dogs don't drink this stuff, right? Meaning, it's not ro'eh la'achilas kalev. Normal dogs aren't going to drink it, so it's not a problem. But the fact that is the bottom line, which is true la halacha, requires us to understand a couple of things in between. The first thing to note is the Gemara defines in Masechus Pesachim daf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis burnt it, and now it is totally ashes and coal, and it is sitting on your driveway. Do you now have chametz in your possession on Pesach? No. Why not? It's not edible. It's not edible to you. It's not edible to your dog. It is taken out of the realm of food. It's not food. Right. It's not food. Yes.
No, something can be food and not food, as they found when it spoils.
Yes. But the definition here, remember, is something that's edible to a dog.
Right.
This is not edible to a dog. Now, if it was already osur from before Pesach, and now it is no longer ro'eh la'achilas kalev, it's probably still osur. You have to still get rid of it. I mean, you burn it, but then you have to throw it out. Meaning, once it's destroyed completely, it's destroyed. But if you have this burnt, this always happens. I don't know if you've ever tried to burn chametz yourself, not take it to a communal burning thing. It's actually hard to incinerate it totally. Right? You're going to end up with very, very, very charred bread, but it's not edible anymore, but it exists. Yeah. At that point in time, it is nifsal me'achilas kelev. It is no longer edible to a dog. You're good, right? At that point in time, it's not chametz anymore. Okay. Not only is it not chametz in the sense that you're not allowed to, meaning you can have it on your property, own it. It's not food. It's not chametz. You are not over bal yoro bal matzah. And if you would eat that, you wouldn't be eating chametz. You're eating something disgusting, but you couldn't make a bracha on it. It's not food. It's not food. Right? At that point in time, you're eating ashes. That's not a problem. It's not a food. However, the Rosh is mechadish something interesting. That something that's not a food, but you treat it like a food, has a din of what we call achshave. Achshave from the word lachshov or lechashev, to think, to consider it as such. If you take something that's not a food and you treat it like a food, you eat it like it is a food, that thing is now a food midrabanan. Food midrabanan. Now, you're looking at me saying, what are you even possibly talking about here? Like, what kind of thing is not a food, but people like actually consume it like a food? So I'll give you an interesting example. Right, kale.
Kale's food.
What?
Kale's food.
Suffix food.
Like supplement.
Kale's
That's,
really good for you.
So?
It's good to eat.
Oh,
Lots of nutrients.
Yeah.
Like vitamins or supplements.
Yeah.
good. Vitamins, supplements,
Consume more like consumables.
right.
Chewable
Or-
vitamin C.
Or how about like Listerine pocket packs? That's not food,
Another is gum.
right? Well, gum has coating on it that is like edible.
So does Listerine. Listerine is all coating.
Yeah, but the purpose is
No, but like those Listerine pocket packs, like
The ones that dissolve in your tongue.
You're,
Yeah.
you're ingesting the flavor of the gum. You don't want to.
it's not a food for sure. You don't make a bracha. Gum, you make a bracha. Listerine pocket packs, you don't make a bracha for sure, right? But
How about this stuff that you
the spray stuff, yeah. So that might be a problem of achshave, right? Meaning, all that it is Listerine, which is inedible, that you're like spraying in such a way that you can kind of consume it. You wouldn't make a bracha on that, but maybe that's achshave. Maybe meaning that's something that you treat like a food, but it's not like it's not a food. It's not a food, right? That's that it's definitely not a food. But says the Rosh, if you treat that like a food, that would be a problem. And the Rosh writes that even though normal people wouldn't consider this a food, if you do, now this is a achshave problem. You're treating it like a food. You're crazy, but it's asmid rabbanon for you, right? Meaning, we have a category in halacha called batla data etzel kol adam, right? Your understanding of what this item is irrelevant to most people. Most meaning your das is batal to everybody else's das. You think something that nobody else thinks. That's fine. But however, importantly so, despite the fact that batla data etzel kol adam, it's still also for you midrabban. And now the question arises in a really interesting way, is when the Rosh tells us that something that you treat as a food, but isn't really a food, is also midrabanan. Is that true only of eating, or is that true of hana'ah as well, of benefiting as well?
Probably.
Meaning, if you get benefit from it, is that also called achshave? Because that opens up a whole new world of problems. What kind of chametz do you get benefit from, even though you don't eat it? Perfume. Shampoo. Soap.
It's not chametz.
But it could be,
Okay.
right? Meaning, it could be made out of chametz.
Especially if it's
It's not edible. Who cares? It's achshave.
Like an oatmeal shampoo or
Toothpaste.
an oatmeal rub.
Right.
Well,
Toothpaste
is hard.
Toothpaste.
But if you had toothpaste that was made out of chametz, I mean, maybe you're ingesting some of that. That's a separate question.
Again, that's actually.
But I mean, achshave by eating, we know is a thing. What about achshave by benefiting? And this is where the whole question begins. The Trumas Hadeshin, we're talking about late Rishonei Ashkenaz. The Trumas Hadeshin has an interesting discussion. The Trumas Hadeshin asks about Diyoy Hamavushal B'Sam Manim. Today, everybody writes with like ink that's synthetic, whatever. But it used to be that ink was made out of natural products. And in order to make that ink, you would need to boil it up. You need to like cook up some stuff. And they would add in chametz into it in order to thicken it. You would have like some kind of like gluten, starch, something, right? That would make it thicker so that it wasn't like just so runny, and it would also act. I mean, chametz, gluten is glue; it's an adhesive, right? So you would mix in this adhesive into this dye so that it would stick to the parchment, the papyrus, the paper, whatever you were writing on. So that's chametz. That's legit chametz. So you have, I mean, it was right. They made some kind of like. Hey, you ever made paper mache?
Yeah.
Yeah, like we like stick newspaper using glue onto like a balloon. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Get wet.
Right. That's chametz. That's all chametz.
Why?
But I mean,
The mixture.
right. It's flour, water.
So if I have a business that makes paper mache, I have to close down during Pesach.
Well, so that's part of this question.
That's seems to be the answer.
So that's the question. The Trumas Hadeshin wants to know about the dye. Meaning, if you're making dye, yeah, well, you're not making the dye in Pesach. You have the dye from before Pesach. Is no, unless your dog is crazy, your dog is not eating your dye, right?
So I feel like the answer is unless you were to eat it or your dog would eat it.
So
it doesn't seem to be Esther.
So the Shulchan Aruch passes like that. The Shulchan Aruch writes, if you have dye that is made out of barley beer, Shechar Sa'orim, right? You know what Shechar Sa'orim is? This. Right? This is barley juice. That's
fermented
right. Chametz, fermented barley juice. If you have your fermented barley juice mixed into your dye, that nobody's drinking the dye, so in Russia, the Shulchan Aruch says you're allowed to write with that, not a problem. Now we should just point out that writing with it would be in circumstances that it would be permissible to write on Chol Hamoed, right? Because most of the time you cannot write on Chol Hamoed. That's in this malacha. Yeah.
What?
Another time. Okay.
Meaning, so this is just asterisk addendum at some point in time. Yeah, we will revisit this. Chol Hamoed is Chol and Moed. It's Chol and Moed.
Unless you're an American, you have to make money.
Which means, well, yeah. We'll get to that definition in 1 second. Writing.
Sacrifice all Jewish laws for money.
Not all, just some, and in permissible ways, which we'll discuss in 1 second. The halacha is, and this is important. Just I'm putting it out there because
this is the center.
I'm saying you need to know this because most people don't. This is one of those things like the Chavetz Chaim said. They asked him, why did you write like a whole book about Lashon Hara? Like, why did you make that a thing? He said, because it was a meis mitzvah. Like, nobody knows the halachas of Lashon Hara. It was a meis mitzvah, which is a phrase that the Torah uses. A meis mitzvah is like a dead body on the side of the road. Like, you have to go and bury it. But it's also colloquial for meis mitzvah, like a dead mitzvah. Nobody knows about this mitzvah. Nobody keeps this mitzvah. So he said, like Lashon Hara, nobody cared about, nobody knew about, nobody was talking about. They were all talking it, but not talking about it, which is different.
So too writing.
Chol Hamoed, the halachas of Chol Hamoed is a meis mitzvah. It is a meis. The din is that you are not allowed to do malachas d'oraisa during Chol Hamoed. Meaning, no lighting of fire for unnecessary purposes, which we'll define in a second. No writing for unnecessary purposes.
Unnecessary purposes.
What does unnecessary purposes mean?
Anything that's not.
So if you need it for davar ha'aved, meaning if you don't do this, you will lose out as a result.
Right.
Or for tzarech hamoed, you need this for the Yom Tov, or and it can't be done afterwards. or something that is tzarchei rabim. For example, you need to. This is what often communities would do when you had like a communal project, like painting the shul. So people would do that on Chol Hamoed, tzarchei rabim for many the needs of the community, many people. So that was permissible on Chol Hamoed as well.
We shouldn't
But
be going to work. You
shouldn't
shouldn't
be
be
If
sending
you-
emails, going to work.
If you can avoid it, without losing out, yeah, absolutely.
So you can't play video games and watch TV on the phone.
No, that's what the Rabbanan.
What?
Midaraisa, he's saying. Like,
Dinim de'oraisa. Halachas de'oraisa we don't do on Chol Hamoed.
so no lighting a fire.
Right. Or turning on an incandescent light bulb.
Because they're saying.
What?
You're saying
He said
Avalon?
midaraisa,
Yes.
Okay.
Malachas de'oraisa we don't
You
do.
can't flip light switches. You can't light a fire.
Right. Assuming it's incandescent.
Avalons.
What?
Avalon.
Yeah.
Good Chol Hamoed barbecue.
Yes, 'cause you can cook.
Can't do borer?
What?
You're
Can't
letting-
do borer?
You can't do butter if you don't need it for Yantif, for Chol Hamoed.
Well, but
Yeah.
you have to use a pre-existing flame, technically. If you really
No.
want to.
No,
You can light
No,
a
if you
fire.
need-
on
you can
your-
light a fire if you need to. You can write if you need to.
You can.
We're very lazy nowadays. Everything is a need.
Right.
Especially in America.
But if you can avoid going to work on Chol Hamoed, you should absolutely avoid going to work on Chol
Going
Hamoed.
to work every day.
That's right. Noach is worried that any day could be a Yantif. Maybe we don't understand the calendar. It's
When the shot comes, it will be.
I need
Amen.
that Uber.
exactly. Okay. Fine. So when the Shulchan Aruch says that you can use the dye, it obviously means in a permissible way, and that's what we're passing the Shulchan Aruch. However, there is an interesting question. The Sholem Eshev, Rav Shol Yosef Nathanson, who till this very day is the single most prolific author in all of Judaism. The Sholem Eshev. Thousands and thousands of halachic responsa. The Sholem Eshev is, to this day, to the best of my knowledge, the most prolific author of halachic material in Jewish history. Well, because he answered specific questions. So people quote him with regards to specific questions. It's not a sefer that people learn as a sefer, but he wrote like hundreds of thousands of responsa.
Lots
Like-
of letters.
Yeah. In fact,
What the Rebbe?
what?
What the love to Rebbe? He wrote a lot of letters.
That's true. But if I'm not mistaken, the Sholem Eshev outshines that by a significant portion. Say what? 1700s. I'll tell you now. Europe. Yeah. This is Shol Nathanson, 1808 to 1875. That I don't have on Wikipedia how many Shabbos and Shuvos he wrote, but like thousands and thousands. Yeah, okay. Beseda. Notwithstanding, the Sholem Eshev has an interesting discussion. He wants to know grain, right? Meaning it's some kind of flammable material made from grain. That's how he refers to it. We would define that as alcohol, right? Meaning you're lighting alcohol in order to in order to be able to burn it. Shema'uru by ra'al, that's got like some kind of poison in it. Meaning there's other stuff that's put into it. It's not pure alcohol. It's got other stuff in it, like stuff that's poisonous. So you can't use it for drinking. You can only use it for lighting things on fire. Can you use this on Pesach? Says the Sholem Eshev, Ach Shaveh, you can't. Shalom Eshev is machmer on this question. It's the achshave. Since you are getting hana'ah from it, and it's chametz, you're getting hana'ah from chametz. You can't eat it, but yeah, you can benefit from it. You can benefit from it.
Benefit from what?
From the chametz, the alcohol.
Shmuel Mishnah says this?
Yes.
On what basis?
He says the Russia's din of achshave extends to hana'ah.
What did?
The Russia's halacha of achshave of I'm treating this as something that I can benefit from. I can't benefit from it because you're not allowed to benefit from chametz and Pesach.
So you would hold that shape and things like that.
Right.
Oh, so he's the extreme that we don't.
That's the chum. That's the chum. So the question is, do we pass them like this? Do we pass them like this?
Clearly not.
There's an interesting discussion. Similarly, the Mishnah Berurah deals with the question. Now, this is not at least in this iteration of it. It's not a super common question, because most people today don't use snuff. You ever had snuff?
Yeah.
Right?
And it's Sephardish rules.
The Mishnah Berurah, no.
Isn't that just like
What?
something?
Brooklyn.
Old school, right?
Isn't it the summer?
Well, it's tobacco. But apparently the tobacco that they had in the days of the Mishnah Berurah, we're talking like 100 years ago in Poland, right? No, that kind of tobacco was chametz. There was some mixture of chametz inside of it. Mishnah Berurah wants to know: Can you snuff tobacco on Pesach? Right. So the Mishnah Berurah writes that no, you can't use snuff on Pesach because it's got chametz in it. You're not eating it. Certainly not eating.
So the cologne and the perfume you can't.
Right. According to this, no. You're no go, right? So even though you can't eat it, you cannot eat snuff. I mean, good luck. You think the cinnamon challenge is a challenge? Try a tablespoon of snuff. Like that stuff will kill you, right? It's for sure not edible. Not edible to a human. Not edible to a dog. Right. So he says that this is a problem of achshave. It's worth pointing out that Rosh Kluger disagreed. Rosh Kluger and Aleph Chashlam disagreed. He said, "Shari nifsal me'achilas kelev kodim zmanu mutar al kol panim behana achar zmanu." He says, it's not edible. There's nothing to talk about here. It seems to be that there's a fundamental machlokas where the achshave applies to benefit.
What's achshave?
When you consider something that is not edible to be usable. Now, does usable mean only for eating, or does it extend to benefiting?
It depends who you ask.
That's the question. There's a fundamental machlokas whether or not achshave is only by eating. Everybody agrees that this is impossible to eat. You can't eat it. And if you wanted to eat it, so that would be achshave if you wanted to eat it. But nobody wants to eat it. The problem is that people want to use it for other stuff. Yeah.
Is achshave really based on the individual's perception?
Yes.
Or is it based on the community's perception?
Individuals.
So it almost seems, because I'm seeing the pattern, is that the purpose of keeping comments and all this is to instill a certain thought in our heads. And that if it takes that extra step to instill the thought in your head, that's the extra step you have to take, even though no one else has to.
Correct.
Because you'd be the guy eating glue paste, thinking like, well, this is what I normally eat. And everyone's like, yeah, well, there's comments in there. I eat glue paste all the time.
Right. So everybody agrees.
I helped in kindergarten. Can shake the head.
Right? Everybody agrees that for eating, achshave is real. Meaning, if you treat it like food, you can't eat chametz on Pesach. Midrabanan, meaning it's not actual chametz on Pesach, but for you it is. But the question is, does that extend to other forms of benefit?
Can you use the soap?
Right. Soap, shampoo.
Toilet paper.
Is there chametz in toilet
You guys
paper?
make toilet paper?
No, I'm saying is there chametz in it?
Toilet paper do you use?
I don't doubt that you eat toilet paper.
Depends what kind of toilet paper you get.
I've heard of edible underwear. Edible toilet paper.
It's different,
I got the
right?
high fiber toilet paper.
I've seen OU. Don't joke. I've seen OU.
Oh,
Okay, that's true.
So-
Edible, yes.
In-
I brought up a good point.
in Israel, no.
They make it.
So I'll tell you, in Eretz Yisrael, you get toilet paper with a hechsher on it all year round. Why? Because no, because they want you to know, because this was a problem at some point in time, that it is not made from recycled shemos. Shemos,
What is shame?
meaning
The
sheets of Torah.
Sheets of God.
Meaning in Eretz Yisrael, they recycle as much as they possibly can of everything. So most of the toilet paper is made out of recycled stuff. So the hechsher is that you know that it's not made out of recycled shemos.
Who's doing that in Israel? Of all the places in the world, like let's recycle Siddurim.
Jews.
Toilet paper.
Are you kidding me?
Meaning it's paper, right?
They have to have a hechsher, or they have a hechsher for Pesach.
No, a hechsher all year round.
No, but I brought
So
up.
someone
I've
in
seen a
Israel is doing
What,
that?
OUP for toilet paper?
Everyone-
That's insane.
Everyone in the non-Jewish quarter.
And that's the point. Meaning, because
I'll get you a photo. I'll send you a
no, but I'm
photo.
saying that there's no ways that there's chametz in there.
It's because the kosher brand needs something in this stuff.
Okay,
It's called
good.
Creating a market.
So how do we paskin?
Asking if the dog wouldn't eat it, we don't do it.
That's
So-
what it is.
If the dog wouldn't eat it, we can own it and auction it.
So you can own it. You can own it. Can you benefit from it? Can you benefit from inedible chametz?
The way we paskin,
Yes.
I would say yes.
So the Sholem Eshiv says no, and the Mishnah Berurah seems to say no,
Yeah.
which is why you see in different kashrus magazines and Pesach books where they say that you need to have kosher Pesach soaps and shampoos. This is why. This is why.
Modern Orthodox.
So who are
That
they
means we
going?
stop paying attention.
Who are they going? by?
Ooh. There's a comedian that's got this bit on modern orthodoxy. He's like, when I grew up, I was told I was modern orthodox. I learned later on that modern meant not very.
There's a comedian that
Right?
made this joke. There's like
Yes.
one of 3 comedians that could have made this joke.
Yeah. How does Moshe fancy Paskin?
Ah,
So Ramosha holds in a number of places that achshave is only true by achila, by eating, not by hana. Meaning
why?
the Trumas Hadashin clearly doesn't extend it. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't extend it. The Sholem Eshiv did, and the Mishnah Berurah did. Nope, he doesn't feel beholden to that. Now there's Lamdas in that as well, but we'll explain more in a couple of moments.
How do we hold them? How do you hold that?
So good. So Ramosha writes.
Great question. We'll get there.
Ramosha writes that when it comes to getting benefit from things on Pesach, if it's not edible at all, then you can benefit from it on Pesach. Meaning it's not considered to be food, and therefore it's not considered to be chametz.
It's not applicable.
So there's nothing to talk about whatsoever. Importantly, this din extends to this one. There you go. He needs to make sure that we finish the chametz before Pesach. Importantly, gentlemen, this din extends to medication
That's good.
because
Good to know.
because very often you will have medication that bidvar harefua she'ata tzarich likach gam bepesach, and you're concerned that there's some chametz in it, even if it's not life-threatening, right? It's not a life-threatening situation. There is nothing to be concerned with. Dikvar nevatel kodem haPesach mishum oichel, right? Mishem oichel. It is already taken out of the category of food before Pesach. Meaning, whatever chametz was there is not food anymore. It's not food. It's not a thing that you're eating. You're swallowing it. You're ingesting it. Yeah, but it's not food. So it's not chametz.
Even if a dog would eat
If a dog would eat it, then it's a problem. But dogs don't eat pills.
Fish oil pills?
What?
Fish oil pills?
I'm saying
Fish oil
the
pill.
pill is not going to eat.
There's fish oil pills, for example.
Correct, but the dog's not going to eat the pill.
Why not?
I mean, they're pretty smelly. A dog would eat that.
But I mean, if a dog would eat it,
Doesn't
then
matter if it's a good scent on the
Ah.
medication.
if it is flavored
Or sugar coated.
or sugar coated,
Like
so,
a lemon fish oil.
right? So that becomes a problem,
Anything with the sugar coating.
right? Anything with a flavoring or a right?
All that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
Or like any sort of chewable one that has a flavor.
Right. Says Rav Moshe, he says, "V'achshavei lo yishayach b'davar shelokech l'refuah." There's no such thing as achshavei by medicine, meaning nobody eats medicine as food, right?
Like
I'm saying-
like Dayquil has a flavor.
Right.
You wouldn't be allowed to have that.
Correct. Well,
you have
unless you knew that it was kosher Pesach.
Unless you do.
Even so,
Right.
if
Assuming
a dog
it's
were
not-
to eat it, he's not benefiting because he's probably would kill himself if he eats your delicious medicine, and that's not really benefiting him.
Well, maybe, yeah. I mean,
it has a flavor though. When something has a flavor.
once something has a
Saying
flavor,
one of the best.
correct. Once it has a flavor, then it is medicine and
That's what
also
makes
food.
something food.
Correct.
Alternate flavor of the thing.
Right.
Yeah, I can add
So like, how about like, you said snuff, how about chewing tobacco like in your mouth?
So chewing tobacco might be a problem. Yeah.
Original flavor.
Correct.
If it's flavored.
Chewing.
No, but just the tobacco.
So chewing tobacco, if it was chametz, would be a problem.
If it, what
Yeah.
if it's not food? If it's
No, but-
chametz, you're
but-
saying, if there's an
Meaning, if
it's
there's
100%
if there's
tobacco,
if there's
right?
chametz in that and you are chewing that,
Like,
so that's gum. You're chewing it for the flavor.
Because there's some part of it that you're going to ingest. And then you'll
Says the after dvarim and marim and meusim noten refuah. It says if you're swallowing something disgusting as refuah, you don't like this thing, right? You're not enjoying this food. It's not food. It's gross. So the lachein ein lecha ma lachshosh v'tikach refuah. Says don't worry about it. Take your pills. Be healthy, even if it's not life-threatening, right? Meaning, if it's life-threatening, eat bread on Pesach, sure. But you're not talking about life-threatening. You're talking, I don't know, whatever it is, your sleeping pills or whatever it is, your thyroid medication, like whatever thing a person needs,
Regular medication.
right?
I don't know if that-
No, so gummies is a problem. The gummies is a problem because it's got flavor,
if you
But
still-
it's medicine.
right?
It's a recreation.
That's I'll tell you, I get the question. I get the question every year or two. Somebody asks about like regular. You're on a course of antibiotics. Rabbi, the antibiotics. Do I have to be worried? No, it's not, those like horse pill sized like augmentin. Trust me, whether there's chametz in that or not, that's not food, right? Or the psych meds, right? Somebody needs the depression meds or the anxiety meds or whatever. None of that is chametz, right? That's like, I think 30% of America
What
is
if it had,
diagnosed with
what
this
if it
stuff.
had like wheat as an ingredient in it, but they don't disclose that because the drug companies don't have to disclose anything.
That's what he's saying.
Right. So if it's not food, you're good.
It's pretty
He's saying because nobody's taking it to eat.
Nobody's eating it.
I just asked him about THC.
right.
You can't.
The same is true.
It's food.
Where do you draw the line though? For instance, that example, recreational drug. Where is the line drawn? What purpose is good? What purpose
What
is
about,
That's what I said.
So-
what about
It's
drops of
medicine.
acid that maybe, you know?
Are they flavored?
See, that's the line.
Let's say the difference between a vitamin.
Flavor.
Let's say the difference between a
It's meant to
vitamin
go in
that you
your
don't
mouth.
necessarily need. Even
Right.
if your doctor says
Okay.
you don't really need it, you take it as a supplement.
So
Versus a recreational drug.
right. So with regards to vitamins, some of the poskim are a little more machmir when it comes to vitamins that are not for healing purposes, because that might be achshave, like legitimate achshave. Why? Because I'm taking a vitamin C pill because I'm not getting enough vitamin C in my diet. So I'm eating it like a food. So maybe when it comes to vitamins, that's achshave.
So the key is to not think about it, because if you do think about it, then you make it actually.
No, I'm saying it depends. If you take it every day, because
It's a
like
strategy with life. Don't think about it.
Close your eyes, grab for the pills, grab one at random. Go, I don't know what it is.
it's an excellent strategy for staying healthy, right?
You got me this far.
Meaning, like an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So every day I have an apple, and then today I realized, oh my gosh, I don't have an apple, so I'm going to go to the cabinet and I'm going to take out like a multivitamin. That's actually right because I'm doing it in place of my apple a day. It's,
That's crazy. But you say that's what option is.
yes, that's the definition of actually.
I think one of the best
That's,
examples would be like a meal replacement bar. Like you might not enjoy it, you might swallow it, but it's meant to replace the whole meal.
Right, or Soylent, right? What's that stuff?
Yeah.
That
Grain?
oh, right, yeah, kale.
Why are you so anti-kale? Kale's
Yeah.
great for you.
Tastes like earth.
I like kale.
Just go bite
A kale Caesar salad?
Yeah,
Some
you
roasted
like-
kale,
you-
kale chips?
You like the Caesar dressing.
Right.
The croutons, not the kale.
I don't eat that croutons. I'll just have kale with Caesar dressing.
So you like the Caesar
I
dressing?
love
not-
Caesar dressing.
Yeah, not the kale.
Right. You
know,
could just chug a bottle of Caesar dressing.
No, I need a vehicle. Okay.
Right.
Something that's a little,
To break up the Caesar dressing. Chevra,
balance it out. It's something delicious. I need something terrible.
exactly.
That's what we're saying.
It's kale serves to make you feel less guilty for chugging a bottle of
I think
dressing.
kale tastes good. It is very bitter, and I understand why people don't like it, but it's fine.
Oh no,
I'm dying on this hill.
I-
You eat it on its own, no dressing.
100%. Some salt and olive
You just
oil.
take a bowl of kale.
I have roasted kale before.
I'm sorry.
Why? So the stem. So I'll agree with you on the stem. The stem is very not edible.
You mentioned kosher. So that's how you explain kosher paper plates.
kale's
that are
fine.
sold, like, OU paper plates or something.
So right, so the plates and the
Where is that crazy?
what?
Or is
Big
that-
salad.
There's
Not salad.
nobody's eating from it and nobody's benefiting from it. I mean, there's not. If there was some kind of like chometz starch made into like a paper plate, very hard to argue that would be
Like this might be a leap.
even achshave
This might be
in
a-
any way, shape,
a
or form.
leap from this, but what about, for instance, a bottle of water?
Yeah.
Would you be particularly concerned over which company's bottle of water?
No, because water is water.
Because there are kosher Pesach bottles of water.
Right.
non-kosher
Once
Pesach.
again,
No.
create a market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I jumped from plates.
I'm
but
saying,
it's more,
there's-
this is a
There is
deal.
no way that me because you're not consuming it at all, the plate. right? You're not getting hana from the plate. Like that's not any.
Oh, you are getting hana from the plate.
You're getting hana in the sense that you're eating something off of it.
You're getting
But-
hana the same way you do from perfume. Cologne,
No, the perfume or cologne, you are.
unless you're drinking.
No. I'm saying that is something that you are consuming in
You're
some way,
ingesting it, yeah.
right? The paper plate you are using. That's technically
Can I
true.
finish this?
But yeah, please.
Some hot oil on the paper plates.
So-
I don't understand.
So I'll tell you. yes. So-
with it.
So I will tell you.
Like when you have such
Why
really
do-
hot,
why does
moist food and it goes into the plate, and then you eat it on the plate to taste delicious. At that point, the chametz
To
went
be more
into the
socially
plate.
acceptable.
Very, very hard to make that argument. I will tell you.
A little bottle of liquid.
Now, I will tell you what does come up as an issue from time to time, and this is worth considering. I think almost the only product that you probably do need to have a kosher Pesach hechsher for is like waxed baking sheets, parchment paper, because it's waxed. Like what that wax is usually made out of kidneys,
What about a cast iron grill? A cast iron.
something that's seasoned,
that's pre-seasoned.
pre-seasoned. Yeah. So depending on the brand, you're
Cook it-
okay.
Cook it off, right? How do you
No,
deal
not
with
necessarily. Depending on the
It's a
brand,
whole other
like
cheer.
large cast iron pans use I think cottonseed oil or like regular vegetable oil. You can look it up.
What? No oils are made with chametz.
No, but they are kidneys. You can have kidneys
Kidneys.
oil potentially. It might be an issue.
Yeah, but about the Bashishim, it's fine.
And
So
Right.
For sure is not wrong, right?
But
so
it's there before Christmas.
there's aside from
Kidneys is not
kidneys,
chametz.
correct.
Not the
It's
same
aside from
level.
kidneys being a lot less intense than chametz, according to a significant percentage of poskim, kidneys oils are not asur at all. So
Kidneys derivatives are fine.
So we in the United States of America, we are machmir for this. But I will tell you that growing up in South Africa, peanut oil, the based in South Africa, I think gave a hechshita.
Yeah, and then you go to Israel and everything's kidneys.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of
Kidneys
side in there, and
fats
it's
Nobody
yeah.
cares. Nobody cares.
Because the market there's for kidneys products are much bigger. Okay, let's one more sugya that's worth understanding here, because it comes up as well, is even once you have figured out that it is not a problem of achshave, there is an additional concern in halacha, which some of the poskim are nervous about. The Gemara in Yuma you can't like use beer. Chamisha inuyim, right?
Yeah.
So the Gemara there explains why, because sicha kishtia, right? That anointing yourself with oil is like drinking. So the Rama paskins like this. The Rama paskins like this based on the Tosfos Masechet Yuma. It says the Tosfos writes the loy ashkhan sicha kishtia ela b'yom kippur v'yisurei ana. So the Tosfos says that sicha is kishtia, that using oil is like drinking exclusively with regards to Yom Kippur. But however, to use this came up a lot, la halacha. Can you use soap that is made out of chelev? Chelev is forbidden fats of an animal. So
How else would you make soap? That's probably how they made soap.
right, so you can
So
use
it's probably not an issue.
you can
Forbidden
use
fats.
forbidden fats or permissible fats, chelev or shuman, right?
How would you know?
Because you shafted the
what's-
animal.
what's
No, I'm
the
saying, how
law?
would you know
What's
what
the
soaps
law?
that you buy from like Dove or whatever?
Dove is all synthetic.
It's all,
Yeah.
it's all chemicals that are bad for you.
Wait,
What are the laws from Torah about
exactly what I
the color that you can't
Exactly
use?
what I was thinking.
Fats you can't use. Forbidden fats.
so those are intermuscular fats.
I'm saying, what's the law? What can't you use them for? You can't eat them.
You can't eat them. Yeah.
And that's the only law.
Yes.
And that only applies to eating.
Yes.
Okay, so then there would be an issue with soap.
So the question is, can you use this soap, right? Chelev soap. So the Ramah writes as follows. He says, the world uses these soaps. He says, but there are people that are machmir not to use chelev soap because of a concern that maybe using like anointing something is a way of consuming it. So you're consuming chelev.
Also, you know those soaps that look like food and then you eat it by accident?
No.
The ones that look like brownies?
I mean, I know that.
It looks like a brownie and it has oatmeal on the
When
side.
did this happen?
Never happened.
Well, so one of my friends.
Noah ran out of brownies.
Was this last year's Christmas?
No, just one of my friends. He had a soap that was like brown, and then it had like the oatmeal pieces on it, and he's just like, I keep almost eating this, even though it's in the bathroom, because it looks like a brownie.
Don't keep brownies in the bathroom in general.
What if you want a bathroom?
No, we said recreational drugs like that are not allowed on Pesach.
Right. However, the Bir Halacha writes. The Bir Halacha writes as follows. So this is, gents, this is Kedai to understand. He says, "Ve'im matzah lahasik baris hanasim shaloi mechelev." If you can find soap that is not made out of chelev, not made out of forbidden fats, meaning all things being equal, be machmir if you can be machmir for this din. Ramosha, however, writes in Igros Moshe, "Lasuch al chatatin begufoy kshein ba sakana rak tzar b'alma." Mishcha shenasan lai lerofe she mikodem shem mikodem shem alcohol shel chametz b'Pesach. He says if you can avoid having a refuah that is alcohol, that's like pure alcohol on Pesach, that would be a good idea. Meaning, let's say you have a cut and they want to clean out the wound with alcohol.
Rubbing
So
alcohol.
right, so that's chametz.
So you
Rubbing alcohol is chametz?
Well, at least the rubbing alcohol that Ramosha was talking about was chametz.
So if I buy rubbing alcohol, like just pure rubbing alcohol,
You have to check what it's made out of.
what if it doesn't say, 'cause it's not required by the FDA?
So you can look up the company, and usually you'll find out.
So work.
Right. So if you can avoid using chametz alcohol,
Awesome.
exactly.
It'll say what I want.
now that ChatGPT is up to Chelik Daled, you know,
Rebbe.ai.
that's yeah. It's disappointingly amaratistic. The Rebbe.
Are you trying to
Playing around with it?
I had a friend that
They try to predict. There's predictive text.
100%.
They try to say what you think it wants, what it thinks you want to say. Then you say it's wrong, and then it learns.
So somebody posted on Facebook that they put into like the first day of Rebbe.ai. Can you take a look at this underwear and tell me if I'm in Nida? And it responded, Judaism does not have an opinion as to the color of underwear.
That is not true.
Yeah. No. What can you do? So, Pashtus is that like something that is like actual chametz that you would get hana from by putting it on your body. We try not to do. Now, there's one final question that arises in some of the poskim, and this came out of Tzvi Pesach Frank was asked this question. If you have a substance that is inedible currently, but you can make it edible again, meaning this is like true of like perfumes that have alcohol in it, that you could distill them, meaning if you heated them up and distilled it, you could extract the alcohol out of it, right? Does that, something that you can control the inedibility of it, right? Can you, no, Listerine is still, I don't think that alcohol is actually, I'm saying, but I don't think that alcohol is like the kind of alcohol that you can drink healthy.
What do you mean?
It's ethanol.
Yeah?
What are you
I don't
talking
know.
about? If rubbing alcohol is an issue,
Let me
then
tell you,
Listerine
it's
is an issue.
ethanol.
Right.
How the home is.
So
Right,
You actually
it would be extremely. It would be extremely.
has a flavor.
dangerous if it was methanol. If it was methanol,
Right.
it would be going blind by accidentally
Right,
drinking.
they
Right.
specifically
They actually
did
apply
make it
That's why-
ethanol, not
that's
methanol,
why
right?
If you consume it, they ask you, well, how much did you consume?
How
All right,
far
so
are
you
you,
might
like,
get a
in
little
the-
drunk.
in the-
Right.
If a child brings it, like, you know, but really, it is ethanol.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Very
The
small.
same. So that would be the question. So Tzvi Pesach Frank deals with the question. Practically speaking, I think that we're makel on that question as well. But you'll see as a result of that there are kosher Pesach like mouthwashes, because of that question.
And probably
So-
flavored floss
Right.
because of suffix.
So la halacha, what it comes out is that we Ramosha Paskins, and this is the commonly held practice, is that achshavei does not apply to things that are inedible but that you're getting hana from.
Rubbing alcohol?
What?
Like rubbing alcohol?
Things that you are going to put on your body and consume in that way that are still validly chametz. There's this. If you are not able to get an alternative, they are permissible
Okay,
for sure.
So if you're faced with you can use regular rubbing alcohol, but if you know for sure rubbing alcohol number 2 does not use a grain,
Correct.
you should use that.
All things
one
being
over
equal,
that. Okay.
all things being equal,
But it's not-
avoid the one that has chametz.
But you can use it.
Yes,
If you need to.
correct.
Okay.
But what's considered access? Meaning we can all go to the Grove and Aroma and probably buy this stuff.
So
That's if you want to
yeah,
spend 5
so
times
all
that.
things
That's my
all
point.
things being equal does not mean you can spend 5 times more. That's not all things being equal.
Well, I was asking for the
And
definition.
and
And it's just like look these things up or just ask for the rabbi. And
so I'll tell you where this comes up la halacha for like Hilchos Shabbos purposes. We paskin for with regards to Hilchos Shabbos hakal kodem that we want to avoid violating Shabbos even in situations of pikuach nefesh, all things being equal. What does that mean? So if somebody needs to get to the hospital on Shabbos, and there are 2 people available, one is Jewish and one is not Jewish. So ask the non-Jew to drive you, because that is all things being equal.
You're allowed to ask the non-Jew. You can't just like hint it.
No, you will ask them. You ask them explicitly. Because you are allowed to drive on Shabbos to take somebody to the hospital,
Okay.
but all things being equal, you should
Better
ask
for
the
them to
non-Jew.
do it.
Right. So the halacha is so I've been asked this question by doctors in the community because this comes up. Practically speaking, according to the vast majority of the poskim, I mean everybody agrees that driving a car on Shabbos is a melacha de'oraisa, a regular car. Driving a Tesla on Shabbos is probably derabbanan because it doesn't have
So
a
it's better to drive
motor.
an electric car.
Correct. An electric car is better
And
for
it's
Shabbos.
better to get coverage from a non-Jewish doctor.
So that's a separate question. But
they don't pass it
but-
that way.
but-
They worship money.
but let's say you do.
I don't.
Let's say that you are a doctor that is going to be on call on Shabbos from time to time. I've been asked this question. I'm going to be on call from time to time on Shabbos. I'm allowed to drive on Shabbos to be on call, but I'm buying a new car. So I recommend buy a Tesla.
But would it be
All
wrong
things
if they
no.
Wait, hold on, why can't
all
they buy
things
any
being-
electric car?
You could, but all things being equal, meaning
Tesla's the best one.
if you are planning on spending whatever it is, X amount of dollars, that you could buy either a Tesla or whatever, an Acura,
Whatever Ford wants to release.
gas guzzler, right? So then buy the Tesla. But if you're planning on, buying a secondhand beat up Ford, right? So you're planning on spending no more than $8 on your car, right? You can't buy a Tesla for that. So that's not all things being equal.
Today's economy.
Exactly. And you could get you could get 2 Cokes and a large popcorn.
$25.
Exactly. But in those days you had to walk uphill both ways. So that's all things being equal. I mean, we don't say all things being equal means if you would spend an exorbitantly large amount of money. All things being equal is you can use the regular, not kosher Pesach soap. But if for basically the same price you get kosher Pesach soap, go for the kosher Pesach soap.
What if it's $1 more?
That's
If you're counting dollars, and we have people in the community that are in situations. So, yes and no.
I'm not counting pennies, sure.
No.
Well, like if this is $1 more and you're seeing them side by side, no one's gonna be like, oh, this one.
No.
This plate has an OU on
I'll
it.
tell you.
Some people do.
No, I'll tell you what the difference is. When you are in the Grove on Erev Shabbos buying something that you need, and your wife calls you and says, "Hey Sam, we ran out of onions. Could you pick me up 2 onions?" Are you saying no? I'm going to Walmart on the way home.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what you do.
Are you saying-
Out of principle, yeah.
Right?
I refuse to give
But that's
it.
if that's your one option as opposed to like going somewhere far.
Right?
But if they're side by side,
No. If they're side by side, obviously you'd be an idiot. I'm saying, but if it's not going to break your budget, and it's not going to, I'm saying, whether your bill at the end, shopping for Pesach is $12,728 or $729, Beseda, right? I'm not necessarily exaggerating. Exactly. It's revenge anxiety. That's the ones we need. Again, all things being equal, like a couple cents here, a couple dollars there, okay, Beseda.
I get the concept.
But to expend an exorbitant amount of money on a non-edible chametz, potentially chametz derived product, being being your first choice, I think the common perspective of the poskim is not to be a machmer on that question. Practically speaking, at the very least, this answers the question as to why it is that certain kashrus guards for Pesach in different years, depending on which posek was like giving the stamp of approval, will be like have a recommended list of soap, and other like years, it's like, yeah, all soap's fine. Right? This explains why. Right? Practically speaking, yeah, all soap is fine, and all cosmetics are fine, and all face washes are fine. And
Except for the beard.
what?
Except for beard oil.
Beard oil is fine. You
Yom
can't
Kippur.
drink it.
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur,
Okay.
Yom Kippur, you can't use the beard oil, right?
Same condition.
Exactly.
But on Pesach, what about beard oils that might have some
You are not drinking them unless
but
Unless you're
it's
Russian.
Unless it's Yom Kippur, in which case anointing yourself is considered drinking.
correct, but only on Yom Kippur.
Okay.
That's how Tosfos says in Yoma. Okay, Chavra.
I'm not
Rakan.
during Pesach, so I still pay it all.
I believe you.